Okay, awesome. Great to be here. Thanks for coming in. My name is Justin Sinkovich, and this is the Music Industry Higher Education panel. I'll be moderating today. It's something we did last year. It was really fun. Basically, the concept is, over the past few years, I've noticed I've worked part-time as an instructor and now as a full-time assistant professor at Columbia College in Chicago, and I realized that a lot of my friends and colleagues from the music industry and media industries are also teaching in higher education. So it's certainly by no means limited to who's up here on stage. There's a lot of great people out there doing the same as what we're doing. So we just wanted to get up here and talk about it, and I just really tried to compile kind of a nice, diverse swath of people teaching out there, both full-time and part-time in a number of different industries. So instead of me introducing them, if maybe we could just work from the end and just everyone could introduce themselves and where you teach and then any other outside industry experience, past and present.
So, hey. I'm David Lewis, and I am the Director of Career Services at McNally Smith College of Music, which is based in St. Paul. Present. And so I probably bring more, I work in the academic team, but I bring more of a student affairs point of view to what we're talking about up here. Prior to that, I actually worked at Columbia, and I co-taught a class, the Amp Records class with Justin, and which went very well, and also worked in their portfolio center. And prior to that, I did PR for about 10 years for Darren, who was in the J Tree. So there's a lot of history happening up here, and excited to talk about it.
I'm Megan Davey. I am an adjunct at Columbia. I teach e-commerce, and I'm also the general manager at Pitchfork. I've been there for about almost 7 years now. And I worked at a venue prior to that. She was in Chicago.
Hello, I'm Darren Walters. I'm an assistant professor of music business at Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and also run a label called J Tree, as David mentioned. That label is about 22 years old at this point. And I've been at Drexel just over 6 years and teach primarily the music business core classes. So I teach e-commerce, I teach marketing and promotion, I teach a class called Vantic Media, which is an experiential class in everything that encompasses music marketing, social media, all of those wonderful buzzwords.
I'm Yvonne McLean. I teach in Tilburg in Holland at the Academy of Creative Industries in Fontes. And teach live entertainment business and also entrepreneurship. Prior to this, I've been working in PR as well. 5 years for Relapse Records Europe. I'm in the office, and I also am involved with the festival, the Roadburn Festival. It's very important. Avant-garde metal, doom, black metal festival, and I just started teaching in September of last year.
Excellent. So again, my name is Justin Sinkovich, assistant professor at Columbia College in Chicago. I teach a lot of music business stuff, but also new media strategies, a lot of technology. Also supervise the media management program. And I think one thing we were talking about before we came in here is really, there's a big convergence in all the media forms, and so I've also been working a lot in film and TV management, distribution, and promotion. That's been really interesting. Other background, I did the digital for Touch and Go for quite a while. I currently run a website called epitonic.com. Was involved in some other websites, Better Propaganda, and worked with CNET for a while, and worked at Southern Records, Cargo Records. So that's me, and that's our panel. So I guess I want to throw the first topic out there, and just feel free to jump in. And I guess it seems like we all want to know more about what the curriculum at these schools look like. How are they derived? Where do they come from? And where are they going? So anyone, feel free to jump in.
I'll jump in. And it's probably different, and we should talk a little bit about the difference between a school like McNally Smith and something like Columbia. So, McNally is a music school, right? So that we have about 750 students, and they can come for performance, production, composition, or business. And they can sort of take various classes within there. In being a music school versus maybe Drexel or Columbia, every student, even if you're coming for business, also has to take sight reading, ear training, ensembles. So it's music is definitely a tremendous factor in what we're doing, what we're sort of looking to put out there. And then the curriculum, I think that the idea here, and we talked a little bit about the experiential process, is that we're looking to, after the sort of baseline education happens for business students, create really hands-on, great experiential opportunities like a trip to South by Southwest, like a trip to Pitchfork, going to Day Trotter, doing these different things to get students out of their safety zones and into the real music economy, which is a living, breathing, challenging, difficult thing that we all struggle with. And so I think that in many ways all three colleges are doing it much, or doing much the same way. But that's the important sort of factor, and that's a lot of what my work is.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing that, again, we sat around for about an hour before this, just catching up with each other and hanging out. And one thing that really permeated the conversation, one thing, is last year we touched on experiential learning, just learning by doing, which I think is extremely important and bridges the gap between education and actually getting a job. And then it feels like this year there's been a pretty substantial evolution in what we've been doing and actually doing what we were talking about wanting to do last year. So where education sometimes inherently moves a little bit slower, just with the checks and balances in place, I really feel like it is moving.
And I think it has to move.
As rapidly as it can.
The industry is shifting week by week or month by month. And if you spend too much time trying to iron out a curriculum that sort of speaks to that, you just can't do it. You have to have sort of a blank space in the center that is to be determined. And you can fill that by you put 40 students to South by Southwest and then charge them with sort of filling that knowledge base, because none of us, professionals included, really know what's happening week by week, year by year. And yeah, higher education inherently is always sort of a few years behind. So this experiential idea, I think, really gets you more exposed out there and able to, for the students, better assess what they're walking into.
But you've also got, the thing with the experiential portion is that, I don't know how many of us utilize textbooks, but I find that I very rarely use them because the information, aside from any historical information, is often outdated by the time we need it, and also often outdated by the time the curriculum is passed. So for me, Drexel is about to undergo potentially a huge curriculum change. And so by the time we even go through that curriculum change, the classes themselves could potentially be outdated. So the experiential learning, again, creates that, it might not necessarily create that freedom, but that space to create a programmatic complement where, if we create a space where, not that anything can happen, but okay, we're going to work on marketing music, and whatever happens in that space is marketing music, and it's not tied down to a textbook or some ideology that can be adapted because it's specific. That's great. And the students are in tune with that, and if they take it one semester to the next, it can be easily adapted, because we can't sit around and wait for changes to be made in committees. And I'm sure if there are, hopefully there are others out in the audience who are educators as well. You've probably experienced this, that you might be able to change a title of a class, or maybe you can change the content and not the title. It all depends on how it fares for you. But I think students also gravitate towards the experiential classes as well.
Derek, can you talk about, you do some pretty substantial experiential classes, including the record label, which is probably the biggest.
Right. Well, I'm not directly involved with the record label, but yes, at Drexel we have several programs. The record label, Man Dragon Records, has released, actually I don't know how many records off the top of my head, because I'm not directly involved with it, but right now it's got a series of records coming out, most notably by Motion City Soundtrack. So a complement of 5 singles that they're curating. The project I'm directly involved in is called Bantic Media, and that's, again, dare I say, for the description, I say artist services company. But in that, again, we're really the true experimental complement to the program. We can get away with doing anything we want in order to push forward a project, be that an artist-specific project like a record or a specific branding portion of something they're doing. And then we have the Mad Publishing Company, we have Draco Booking, and so forth. So again, some of those are a little more straightforward than others, but again, students have to take the publishing, the record label, or Bantic at least 2 terms concurrently. But even that, we work in trimesters, so I don't want to belabor this too much, but right now I've got students who've taken the fall and winter, and now we lose them for the spring. So we've got projects that are currently in production, and we're going to have an entire new crop of students when I go back next week. And our projects are not necessarily lost, but you've got 15, 20 students who are coming in and going, okay, I don't know anything about this project. Then summer's going to happen, and the record label is the only thing that runs for the summer. So we're trying to institute something that goes against the entire university policy, which is that it's mandated you have to take 3 of the experiential classes 3 terms concurrently. But again, that would be against university policy. But you can see anyone, again, here is an educator, but more importantly is in the business, you understand that having the same individuals involved in a project for at least 9 months at a time makes complete sense.
AMP Records, which is the Columbia record label before Justin and I took it over, had that exact problem where it would be a group of students who would work for 1 semester, right, and then disappear after midterms or whatever. And you'd be working with artists and you'd be putting out 7-inch or whatever it might be. And a brand new group comes in the next semester, and it's a steep learning curve, and you lose them, and you don't ever really get back. So the client, once they're pissed, it's not good. And most projects sort of die on the table.
Yeah, so we do something similar to Darren now, where we did the AMP rock label, then we split. We wanted to grow it so we could offer it to more students. You can't run any sort of project with 40 students working on it. So we kind of split it up where we have a rock label, we have now a hip hop label, we have a talent agency, we have a club that we manage on campus now, which is pretty exciting. I run, it sounds like similar to Bantic Media, an online distribution and promotion company. We even have an art gallery on campus that we manage and curate. And we have a new practicum publishing company, and just more in the works as well. So, but the key to that, again, running it over the summer, even if it's one of the few classes that runs over the summer, and making it repeatable so that you can just keep running in it. And if you have new people, the students that have been in it for 2 or 3 semesters can mentor the new students, which I think is a big part of it. Not only should I be a mentor, but older students who have a little bit more experience are great mentors to new students coming in, helping them get adjusted to college life, helping them get adjusted to being proactive and managing products and not dropping them all on stuff.
Right.
Bob, do you want to talk about another experiential kind of different direction that we were talking about backstage was kind of exchange programs? And that's something that I think the rest of us aspire to do better. More because, you know, as I'm sure we can all relate to, a global perspective in business is extremely important. And that's why I wanted Yvonne on the panel to bring that perspective. But also, her school has been extremely proactive in instilling a lot of great programs. Can you talk about some of that?
Yeah, about the international exchange programs, we have a lot of, the school has a lot of contacts with other universities, and we're trying to really support and activate students to go abroad. And even to Australia, we have students that do minors in Australia and Africa. There's students in the US, we're talking about Loyola before. And I know that we're looking for maybe more exchange programs. It's going really well as far as I know. And it adds a lot to the experience of students getting out of their comfort zone into a new environment really can inspire students to really excel. And it's very important to see how other cultures do their business. It works completely different in Holland than over here. We still rely a lot on subsidized funding for a lot of our cultural creative industries, which is now shifting. So I think for our students it's really good to be in a culture where there's not so much funding and to really work hard and not just rely on that funding. But in an early stage already to get students out there, even for internships, because we have 2 times 6 months internships, full time, which I can do abroad, worldwide.
And those are mandatory internships?
Yeah, those are mandatory. So yeah, we have 2 directions in school. One is for the Bachelor of Commerce, and one is the Bachelor of Communication. In the events, music, and entertainment industries. So basically you get the bachelor and you get the extra part is then if you talk about how to work in the events, music, or entertainment industries. It can differ from running or organizing a fashion show to running a label to PR for events. We just opened a new television studio in school, so it's growing and growing. So. But the international part is really important. I always have like 5 or 6 international students from Korea, Hungary, Denmark, and it's really good for students too, because that means my advanced course has to be in English. So, which they don't always like.
Right.
You don't care, it's good for them,
That reminds me, Darren, you were talking about something I didn't realize at your school, so it's rooted from a more performance background, but then there's an MBA component that is tethered, can't be tethered to a degree, which sounds pretty interesting. Can you talk about that?
We offer a combined MS MBA, so it's a 5-year program, which fair amount of students take, but this conversation came out of the fact that, again, for what we do, a lot of us were born out of probably conservatory type programs, although that wasn't necessarily the case with Drexel. It was a straight music program. So like David was talking about, you do have to take a large amount of straight music classes, which some people like, some people don't. We stripped away a good amount of those. I am a campus pariah, I guess, because I'm against an awful lot of those music courses, straight music courses, because a lot of our students, I do admissions as well. I don't know how many of you do admissions. Does anyone do? So I do admissions as well. We have to, faculty in our program do admissions for our program. And it seems like every student who applies is basically a performer. So that's like a given. So there are the odd student who doesn't play an instrument, but the fact that you know, they have to take 3-4 classes of ear training, sight reading, you know, this and that. It kind of bumps me out because the reality is that, you know, most of them, they're going to play in bands and they want to move forward into learning about the business or the technology side of the two tracks business or tech track. And if they want to go on with the advanced MBA, they do that as well. So I am very much, in fact, stripping away much more of the music so they can actually get what I think we're there to offer. But that again becomes a fight depending on where you were, what kind of a program you were born out of. Yeah. And then becomes a further combination of what are we trying to offer? Because I know at Drexel we have this constant, we're not there to, dare I say, give you a job, but then give you an education. So there's no promise of a job in the end. Sure. But we too are a cooperative program. So you have to have 2 3-month co-ops in the process. And so what are we offering in terms of classes? What are we trying to add? What are we trying to take away? If you want to add all these new classes like Justin was speaking about, how do you do that without compromising the program? One way or the other, you have to make room for things. So what do you students want? Because I know these are students over here. So what do you want more of, and what do you need less of, and how do you balance that with, you know, all these emerging things all at the same time? It's quite a process.
One thing that complicates that in some ways is a little inside baseball, but is the accrediting body dictates much of that stuff. So that Columbia's HLC, so that there's more flexibility in how your programs are put together. And if you have we have NASA, you guys must have similar things. So that in some ways those are requirements dictated, and then sort of scaled depending on what the program is.
And it's interesting that you say that, you know, we're all trying to reach a very similar end goal in, you know, music, arming these students for music industry jobs. But as you said, it's born out of completely different backgrounds. So kind of come from completely different directions, and are restricted to a degree by different things. So our school is considerably different. And you guys, we're based on a management curriculum. So our core curriculum is economics, is accounting, marketing, law, you know, writing for a manager, all that good stuff. But it's all based on the arts, and it's not just music. So I actually supervise the media concentration, which is TV, film, you know, journalism, management. You know, what isn't media basically at this stage. New media, of course. And then we even have sports management in our department, which seems really strange at an art school that doesn't even have sports teams. But if you think about it, sports is just like any other form of entertainment. You know, the players are the musicians on stage, the coaches are the directors, you know, of the film or of the stage performance. It's you know, there's still sponsorship, there's still ticket sales, you know, so we do that. We have visual arts management for galleries and museums, performing arts management, and all these things are interconnected. So it's from a totally different perspective, but again, one thing, you know, we actually took out all of the theory, music theory, and that sort of thing from our department to focus on kind of our strengths of being a management program. Because, I mean, we're kind of lucky because our school is the biggest art and media school there is, and we're the biggest arts management department there is. So we have all these satellite departments around us that teach music, composition, and theory, so it's pretty nice. But two totally different, but very, depending on what you're interested in. Megan, you've been pretty quiet because, for good reason, because she is new to teaching.
Very new.
So I definitely wanted to have her here. I mean, first of all, she is the general manager of an amazing company with amazing people called Pitchfork, and she's also new to teaching. She teaches part-time, and I just want, if you could speak to what it's like, because is anybody out there never taught before but kind of wants to do it, and that's maybe why you're here? Okay, great. So maybe you can talk about what it's like to teach for the first time and what you're doing and how you're prepared and that sort of thing.
Well, it's terrifying at first, because you walk into the room and there are 20 people just staring at you, and they have all these expectations, and you kind of, you trip and you stumble a little bit along the way, but as you get to know your students, it gets so much easier. And every week I'm talking to Mike over here, like through one of our friends, about like how his class went and what's working for him and what works for me. And you just sort of develop a relationship with the students where you figure out how they learn and you figure out what gets them engaged, because a lot of times that's the biggest issue, is that you want to have a class that's discussion based, but you have students at 6:30 on a Thursday night and they're beat because they are interning and they are working and they're going to school full time, and you have to find a way to make a connection with them and to really get them engaged in a way that you're not necessarily used to doing on a daily basis. At Pitchfork, I mean, we barely talk in person. We do everything over IM, and like we're stretched over 3 offices now, so it's a lot more interaction than I'm used to, and it's a lot of talking. And so you kind of have to get used to the fact that you're up there and you're talking for 3 hours and trying to drive home why what you're saying is important and how they're going to use it at a later date. Which with e-commerce is pretty easy, and they all get it, and there are so many great examples of companies that you can bring up that really get the students talking and things that they're interested in. So I'm adjusting and I'm enjoying it. It was a lot of prep work.
You feel like, so the hardest thing about your first semester teaching is you have to do all the prep work up front, right?
Yeah.
So Megan, the hard part is almost behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So like the 12 hours a week of like going through, because you're getting a textbook and you have to read this textbook that, maybe when you were in college you never read a textbook. You just went to class. So that's, maybe.
And speaking to the textbook thing, one thing I did last year specifically for the e-business class is found a solid textbook, because, so one thing we do at Columbia is a majority of our classes are taught by part-time instructors. So if you are in the industry and you're thinking about teaching, do keep in mind that it's a really, arguably a really great model to have, where people are out doing stuff in the industry and they come in once a week, twice a week, and teach what they're doing. So
I think I think that all of our schools, and Valley does this too, but having really great, talented people that are out in the community doing this work, teaching a class, and whether it's we have David Safar from The Current teaches a radio class for us. We got Megan doing e-commerce. I think that's incredibly vital and needs to be there for this kind of education. Again, filling that void, that unknown. You're actually out there day after day dealing with the unknown, dealing with stuff like South by Southwest, and I think that you bring real expertise to it. And I think that that's absolutely vital to students.
Well, and I think that they challenge us to become better in our day-to-day job too, in a way where, I have students saying, well, what are you doing for the community, like the music community in Chicago? It's like, you have a festival? Right. And they're like, well, what else are you doing? It's like, that's all we do. Right. And so it makes you think about the things that you're doing in a different way, and I think that can only help everyone and the whole community.
Yeah, when I first started teaching, I was working at Touch and Go, and I told Corey that I wanted to, Corey is the owner of Touch and Go, and I told him that I wanted to start teaching. I need to get out of work a few minutes early, on one day a week. He's like, oh yeah, that's fine. And so he never went to college or anything, so he was really fascinated by the whole thing. He would ask me what it was like, and I was like, oh, it's great. I was teaching this exact same class, and exact same time slot and everything that Megan's teaching for the first time, actually. So I would just always say, oh, it's great. I'm learning so much. Because when I first went into a meeting, this e-business meeting with all the other adjuncts, they were throwing around all this terminology and stuff and I had just run Epitonic and other web companies for a long time. I was doing the digital Touch and Go, but I didn't know what any of that terminology meant at all, and I was completely mortified that I was going to fail miserably. And then I just realized that, oh, you know, ECRM, you know, just means managing your relationship with your customers. That's all that means. That's and your users.
Just throw an E in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, and yeah, one of the other teachers, Alden, who's teaching, that does everything. He does search engine optimization, and so he's been really helpful because I don't really have much experience in that, and so he focuses most of his class. It's interesting to see how different people take a different approach to the same class.
Yeah, and I think it's important for me kind of supervising these classes to create structure for the class, but then Megan brings in some tremendous strengths that I want her to showcase and I want her to focus on. And then Alton, who's a search engine optimization specialist, he should be able to bring that, to a richer level in the classroom as well. People should not be intimidated, so that's a challenge. But what I was going to say before is I did actually, as hard as it is to find a textbook, if you can find a textbook that can anchor, because the scariest thing is to teach a class and there's no textbook, and especially when you're new. So you're like, what am I going to talk about for 3 hours here? How am I going to structure this class? Textbook does help, even if you only use it for it.
But I just want to point out, like with e-commerce, same thing. It's like I know e-commerce because I teach e-commerce too. And then when I went to teach it, I was like, what the hell? What am I? I mean, I shouldn't put it like that because I'm teaching. But yeah, I mean, I had some things that I figured this is how I teach. I'll teach it, and then when I went the second go around and I looked for a good textbook, the best thing that I could find is a textbook that probably is 10 plus years old, and I've gone back and forth with it. But you're right, it's now an anchor because it's certainly not music and e-commerce. It's hardcore e-commerce book, and the students hate it. So I ditched making it required reading, and what I've done is I use it as a basis. I recommend reading it. It's an expensive book, so again, students in the room, you don't want to have to spend $80 on a textbook, where I'm extracting the most relevant information and talking about it and distilling it and so on. But it was nice to get some of the stuff that is just like the hardcore e-commerce stuff that is relevant to e-commerce no matter what, and then moving on from there in week 3 and so on into other stuff. And at least if you want to read 250 pages on e-commerce, go ahead. And of course, no student ever does that because they just go on to where we go on to building a functional e-commerce site, which is, again, something they're more interested in.
Yeah, well, that comes to the question. We'll get to the first question from the audience here. What I found, we talked about experiential learning, but I actually, it dawned on me the other day I have some new dogs in the house. And so I had to put together this baby gate to gate the dogs to a certain part of the house. And so I opened up the manual to the baby gate, and I had a long day at work. And I opened the instructions, and I literally said, we got to return this thing. I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to figure out how to put this together. These directions are terrible. And so I took a breath, and the next day I came back to it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put this thing together. I mean, how hard can it be to put together a gate? And then so I put it together about 90%, and there's a couple of things I didn't realize how to do. And then I actually looked at the instructions and said, okay, now this makes sense. And so I think that's kind of, as inane as that story is, I think it represents the fact that no one's going to sit there and be like, all right, I need to learn how to monetize my business online. I'm going to read this giant textbook. You're going to start doing it, and then when you have a question, you're going to reference it and start digging into some research. And I think that's really important. That's really where we're actually building our curriculum a lot more like that, where you start experiencing it, and then you learn the stuff. Oh, I need to take this law class to know.
Well, either way, sorry, I know you're going to get this question, but either way, we all know that you can just go on YouTube and find anything you want anyway. So, yeah, right? So, I mean, the real trick is we want to be facilitators of information, not just whip out the textbook and go, okay, so, here it is. And I think that moving away from that and adding more of the experience fits in is in every class, not just the true like, you know, practicum classes, but in all the classes we teach is what makes it unique. Because I know, even though I don't teach studio recording, I know that that's one of the struggles that those professors have, is like, well, you can look on YouTube and watch videos on how to do Logic all day long. So, you know, they don't, but you know what? They don't have a lack of people taking the studio classes at all, you know, because they find ways to mix it up and have that human element in it.
Sorry, I'm so sorry for the delay. Sorry, your question. I have no idea how much time we have left because of the delay.
15 minutes.
As
6 minutes.
As an
15
college,
more minutes.
Oh, 15, okay.
as a student of the College of Music, I want to ask each of you, you know, like there are two things that students care about, and the one over everything is partying, and then the second one is the grades. And how exactly do you evaluate your students in these crazy, you know, experimental experiences? I know that we're being evaluated, being here and everything, and it's kind of...
So is this part of your grade?
This
Like,
right now is part of
Robbie failing.
And I'm evaluating it right now.
I do a quick answer? Yeah, I don't know if it'll be quick. I struggled with that until I put it into words. So literally, I literally did not struggle with it. I thought I had it nailed down until I then put it into a well-documented form. And so, there are a couple ways you can do it, but for me, in practicum classes, one of the best ways that I do it is journal. Because through journaling, then for me, I get to see a record of what you've done, how you've done it, how you feel about it, how you've reacted to it, and then I also want you to include the proof. So whatever that is, you know, in this day and age, it's really easy because we've all got these, because I thought you were going to say partying and Facebook. So, but you know, you can, if you say I went around town and I put up posters for the show, well, you can take pictures, you can attach it to your journal, do everything via, you know, email. So it's taking pictures, it's screenshots, it's all this stuff. So with all that, it's fairly simple to, you know, to evaluate based on that, because if you've got the backup material with it, you know, I went to the studio, the band recorded 2 songs, a song attached, you know, I made a call, date and time of the call, you know, conversation was about this, I'm going to follow. I mean, then it's an easy evaluation. So it's not as like random as it sounds. And it's funny because I often get that from students when I'm in the grading process now. They're like, but I was in class. Well, when you're in practicum class, at least again how I do it, it's not like, it's not just because you were warm in the seat.
Sort of this portfolio idea, right? So as we do different experiences and we take different classes, you know, some of it you're taking a quiz, you're taking a test, and stuff doesn't necessarily go with you, but with the experiential stuff, you're documenting, you're archiving, you're creating a narrative, you're reflecting on that narrative. And the best of that stuff boils into some kind of portfolio. It's partially a resume, could be video, could be audio, and I see those as great career building tips, right? I took this class, but this is a residual effect of that class.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just wanted to show you guys for a second. One thing I've been diving into heavily is, because I'm a tech nerd, is we have a learning management tool called Moodle. It's an open source platform where you can do learning. I see some people shaking their heads, perhaps hating on the Moodle. But if you embrace the Moodle and maybe take a little, as an instructor, take a course, I built this whole course in here. We have the learning objectives for the day. You have, you know, some images in there to compel the students. But their assignments are actually on here, and you can just upload your assignments. I'm going for next year completely paperless. And so you actually just upload or copy paste your paper or test into the exam, or into the system. There's a blog on here. There's forums, so you can see everybody's blogging. and actually, so it's basically online journaling in this blog. So this tool, and actually for me, I'm really short on time when it comes to grading and stuff like that. So it makes it a lot faster to grade, and it'll actually grade assignments for you. And you can also keep your grade book. So if you put in this person made an 85 on the paper, and you just weight the assignment 25% of your grades, it automatically calculates all your grades for you, and it's completely transparent with the student. So you really have to stay on top of this thing and make sure you integrate it constantly with the students, or they start to shake their heads and like, oh, I hate that thing. I forgot that thing existed, or whatever. But it's a really great way to, first of all, get people used to technology, but it's a really good platform to save time.
Hello. I'm also a student at McNally Smith. I have a question about, there's so many different types of style of students out there. There are students coming right out of high school, going to a music school, getting themselves, they're like, oh, I want to do music, and they're going straight to music school. Then you got students that may have done real life experiences, have gone out and done, massive things in the industry or whatever they've done in their past. And how do you facilitate, how do you direct different students, so they don't get bored, basically, like if there's, do you choose the classes, depending on what they, I don't know how I'm trying to explain this, do you evaluate them before they come into school and, direct them towards what you think they should do, or oh, you've done this, so maybe you should take this class instead?
Well, in our school, in college, we have a study coach, for instance. Study coach kind of coaches the students through all the years. So basically, you go through choices they can make for, like in the second year of college, they can make a choice between doing a life entertainment business class or doing music business class. And there's a few other events, for instance. And then you try to look already into what do you want to do later? Is it difficult for you to make a choice? Are you afraid that when you make a choice now, it will be the wrong choice? And you basically try to keep them, give them opportunities and help them out. The same goes for before they go do internships. I'm already coaching now my students for the second year, what they're going to do for the third and fourth year, which is basically the end process for a school, whether they're going to do a minor first or the internship. And after that, there will be advanced courses. It's very important to let them know the first internship, don't worry about it. This is primarily for you to understand how it is to work in a company. So we do coach them quite intensively, actually. So, and it really, I think it works good. So.
And David's job is to be the coach, I believe.
For all students?
Well, it's actually on there, but yeah.
Because I have one class, it's consisting of around 30 students.
Right.
So that most of the full-time or almost full-time faculty have their own class.
It's a really important question. So, as you go through your education, you're going to have sort of different moments of crisis and consideration, and am I in the right program? And each student's an individual, so we want to really meet with them as often as possible to sort of sit down and assess what their, where they want to be and what their game plan is and how they're going to get there and where we can help along the way. And so that happens in a couple different places, but certainly in our office, with admissions, with faculty. I think it's interesting that Darren talk a little bit about faculty doing admissions work.
Yeah.
Because I had never heard of that before.
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, we have like 900 applicants. We get a little bit down to 54. But we start high, so I won't take away from the many questions that we start high with GPA and high with SAT, so we don't even look below the 1300 SAT right there.
I can't be in your program.
I can't be in your program.
It's I just to follow up on all that, as far as one thing we've done that's interesting I want to throw out there is, you guys might not be aware from last year, we've drastically reduced our requirements for our major. Because instead of trying to, like I was saying, we also got rid of a lot of the theory and other kind of non-management type curriculum. But instead what we've done is, so you take your liberal arts and sciences, then you take your arts management classes, based on what you're focusing on. And then you have 36 hours of electives that you can take now, which is, that's a tremendous amount of classes. So that's basically almost another major. And the reasoning behind that was because, again, with all these different industries converging and working together, you need to take, in our department, you need to take some music composition classes, some performance classes, some filmmaking classes, some web design, some database architecture classes, maybe even. So you can go out there, but it is the role of an advisor, to help steer that student in a certain direction, because you don't want them to just take Pilates for 4 years. I mean, there's some advantages to that.
John Thompson over here. I'm a creative director at a publishing company. It's a division of EMI. I'm in Nashville. I'm from Chicago originally. I've been in Nashville for 5 years. I actually spoke at Columbia years ago just as a guest speaker for one of the classes. And I've done a lot of that with colleges in Nashville and Chicago and around the country. And I've noticed that I did a very bad thing, a long time ago, and that's that I turned down college scholarship offers to start a business. And so my career for 22 years has been retail, radio, concert promotions, editorial, and event planning, and now music publishing. So I've got a lot that I know about, but I didn't finish a degree. And so how do you guys take advantage of people that don't have a degree to do that, or do you somehow facilitate that, help people finish their degree if they're later in their careers, because it's just kind of unrealistic to go back to school when you've got 4 kids and you've been doing this for 25 years?
Yeah, it's a percentage issue, right? So a certain percentage of faculty at a college can teach without a degree, but they have to be in progress to get, if that faculty member has critical acclaim. Grant,
I have that.
Oh yeah. And it's an individual issue based on the institution, so it certainly doesn't preclude you from teaching, but you should also be mindful that having a higher level degree would be probably immediately thereafter something you have to pursue. But yeah, I think that based on what we're saying here, is having a great body of knowledge is really valuable, and connecting with young people and mentoring is a big part of it.
Well, I want to point out, we're hiring now, and so I'll give you a good example. We're all great examples of this. I think it's safe to say, unless I'm wrong, none of us have a degree in this. So, okay.
But you got it later too.
Yeah, I got it much.
Okay, that's what.
Yeah.
To be fair.
So.
No 52-year-old has a degree in music. Right. Okay. So my point is that again, most of the people who would apply for a job that we currently have up might be coming from a conservatory background, which is different, let's say, obviously different than the background you have. Our programs, because we're breaking from those kinds of traditions, we're talking about music business, let's say, we don't want somebody from a conservatory background. We might want someone from an academic background, but a conservatory / academic background, that's not what we're looking for. So that also speaks to what David is saying, is that like there's that level of, okay, well this person has 25 years experience, they worked here, they worked there, they have these contacts, but they don't have a degree, or they have a bachelor degree. You're probably not going to be a tenure track professor, but that doesn't, there's all these nuances to that. And then I think in terms of finishing, I don't
Oh, I think there are, I think you might have kind of asked this question too. I don't know that there's many students who have come in, if at all. I can only think of maybe servicemen and women who have come in at 28, you know, a little later in life who to complete or start a degree in music business. I have not taught anyone a little older.
But there's a lot of online studies nowadays.
That's true
and
too.
if you go to see Berkeley, what they offer.
That's true. It's true. That's true.
So,
Like a top, right? Yeah, the online Berkeley classes. That's,
yeah.
I actually do have a student with me on the trip down here who has been an accountant for 10 years and came back because they want to do something more fun with their prowess in business and actually do music stuff, which I think is awesome. And she's, as you can imagine, really excelling.
So, sorry, we have time for 2 more questions. I saw that one. If you don't mind, they'll be outside, and you can keep it going. So,
okay. You all seem to be talking from a university standpoint, but there's also institutes and conservatories. If I'm, still in high school, how do I know which branch I should go to and how I should address?
Are you a musician or performer?
Hey, this is Dan, first of all.
Hey.
That question is open to everybody in this room. I think we've all been 16 at one time in our lives, and we didn't know what we were going to do. And we're here at South by Southwest because he's decided to do something in the music industry.
Sure.
And yeah, he loves it. I support it.
You're a great dad.
He loves it. I support it, and I want to make sure that he does what he wants to do, what his heart leads him to do. That's a confusing thing once you get to that point, going further. And what he's looking for is a little bit of guidance as to what is the process for going and identifying what's best for you and what schools are the best out there. You talked about several accreditation agencies. It's hard to tell which one's the best. I think each one of you are kind of looking at each other like my school's better. But I think they're all different. And if you guys could comment on that, and even the people in the room, what would you do different if you had it to do over? You're 16, and I would frame it with there's no resource issue, there's not really a talent issue, there's no intelligence or SAT score limitations on what you do. Thank you.
Oh, please, I want to grab this mic so bad. I see you bending in. I just want to say real quick, because I just as we're going through curriculum change, I know y'all have a lot to say, but I'm just dying to answer this question because I argue with my colleagues on a consistent basis about this. So I think David already said, number one, if you want to be a performer or you want to work in the business, but keep this in mind, you're going to always be a performer. Right. So that's the whole thing. Like, conservatory is mostly going to be performance. So, like, what I was saying is every kid that comes into, for instance, my program, they're 95% of them are players. They're playing in bands. I mean, all they care about is their band. They're not Snow and Me that, like, yeah, totally cool. I'm learning how to market in your class. So what they're doing is they're writing the bio for their own band. They're learning how to, like, pick their own song on SoundCloud, or if they don't already know it. You know what I mean? So I think that's one issue that's probably easily solvable. Even if you're a player, the business skills you learn from us is those are totally, those are skills you want to be able to have at your disposal, because that's what we already have. Is we have artists who don't know what the hell to do, So you could be the most amazing guitarist, drummer, singer, whatever. If you have all the business skills to back it up, you're going to be like the most well-rounded musician. Hopefully, then no one can ever take advantage of you. Right. So that's like the best thing in terms of which school to decide. I mean, that's like you said, we probably would all,
And for us, ours would be different. Where again, ours is more based on arts management. There's a lot of different other concentrations that are involved in the same department, so it'd be a little bit different animal. Also, I think location is key as well. So I'm from Nashville, But I live in Chicago because I'm more into hip hop and indie music and that sort of thing. And our offices are our buildings are downtown, like on Michigan Avenue. So that's where all that stuff is happening. Meanwhile, if you taught at Belmont in Nashville, great school, or where my mom retired from, Middle Tennessee State University. Great, okay, excellent. Awesome.
Is there anything in this area that you guys think is anywhere near the level that you guys have gone?
What's this?
Oh, in this area, Texas?
In the South?
Oh, okay.
I know you can see Austin's program, similar, it's more performance-based, so it's easy.
And I think I'm just going to give really general advice here, but it's really important you do this, and you talk to people, and you go to campuses, and you meet with staff, and you look them in the eye, and you see if it gels with you, because college isn't just about this sort of educational process, it's also a cultural thing, it's a social thing. You want to be somewhere that really gels with who you are, and that's contingent on who you are. And I think that's the most important thing. I think we're all badasses up here, and some more than others. But it's different. It depends on what your needs are. Do you need to get away from here? Do you want to stay close to home? And those are really valuable things, and don't discount that when you're deciding what you want to do. And just ask a ton of questions.
Yeah, part of the experience might be to go to Philadelphia and live in a city and go to Drexel. Just that experience in itself. I think my students, when they come down here, because they live in downtown Chicago, I feel like they're more mature than I was growing up in more of a college town where you're more isolated. You have to really think on your feet living in a major city, and a lot of music business, as we all know is done in bigger cities. So
yeah, and actually, so we were talking about international, and off that comment as well, Drexel draws most of its students from the 5-state areas, so for those of you who don't know. That's Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So, I mean, and we were all talking about the same thing. We're all drawing, except for where you're at, that we're drawing from like these same little geographic areas. And you know what? That's not good for anyone. It's not good for the professors, but it's especially not good for the students, because we joke that like, oh wow, we got more kids from New Jersey. I mean, who don't want to go to Tilburg in Holland and experience like what it would be like to work in another country where it's totally a plausible experience and should be in a globalized environment that we live in. So that's something that we want to change, and we want different students coming in. So I think that's, it's totally right. You want to consider that too, that, hey, maybe I want to go to, they're not here, or, you might want to go to Belmont because it's maybe somewhat of a safety net, but at least it's somewhere like outside of, where you are used to.
Yeah, and I want to add really short to that. We have a culture in Holland that we do a lot of voluntary work. Like Southwest, there's a lot of volunteers working, and I've always done a lot of voluntary work at venues, school parties, more parties, tours, whatever I could do with the band, help out with merch or whatnot. Try to find a city where you feel comfortable and you're able to help out, whatever it is that you can do, even if it's voluntary. I know it's a different kind of culture, but it's very important because it gets you experience and relations. And everything in this industry is built on who you know and what you've done. So if you're able to do that, I think that's very important.
I think the guy with the cool mustache.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Todd Raybeck. My brother and I teach one course at USC, the music publishing, music licensing, and contracts course. And I tell you, as far as textbooks go, some of you guys use it, but Music Learning Success is on licensing, contracts, everything else. It's absolutely great book. So we use it in our course, but we also incorporate, because we're both have jobs in the industry. Jeff's Vice President of Business Affairs, BMG Crystals. I was the Executive Vice President for most of my life. But we incorporate into our lessons from this book our actual day-to-day experiences to make it more interesting. Like, so if CeeLo Green's got the FU song, and so Jeff will explain how that song came about, how it's licensed in all different configurations where the voice becomes #1 TV show. We'll tell people how all that stuff is licensed. For James Horner, that scores the Avatar. We'll tell them, I'll go through the scoring contract and how the millions of dollars in back-end royalties that can be made from those types of situations. So it's an interesting way of teaching, which is really in conformance with what you're saying. There are good textbooks out there, there are books on subjects. We update ours on our website, so it does make it current. But the practical day-to-day experience incorporated into lessons is invaluable. So when people walk out of our class, they are experts. They can almost walk into a licensing job anywhere in the entire world. So, again, I re-accent the licensing aspect and contract aspect of all of your curriculums are essential if you're going to survive and make money in this business. And I also, funny question about the university. I go out and I'll go to like University of Miami or Florida State or Loyola or Columbia, like for a day and teach there. And there are so many good music schools, and the 4 up here or 5 up here are really good. And so I just recommend the licensing aspect of it for everybody in your curriculum. So well done, guys.
Great. Glad you guys made it in. Cool.
I guess that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for